Now for the first Power Rangers game I'm covering on this channel, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers The Fighting Edition. I've only played this game once before, about 17 or so years ago, back when we had SNES 9X on our original Xbox. The copy I'm playing now is a very recent purchase bought just to make this video. So I haven't been into Power Rangers for about 20 years, but it's one of the earliest franchises I remember loving as a kid, constantly watching and having so many of the toys. In fact, my second earliest memory is of me playing with my new blue and green Ranger flip-head figures on the living room table. I would drive my parents mad the amount of times I played the video of the first film. I remember making my grandmother make me a little command centre by sticking a bucket on top of the huge cardboard box to vaguely resemble the shape of the building. My enjoyment would always dip for a bit at big changes though. For example, I enjoyed Turbo more than Zeo back then, because it took a while to get used to all the changes in Zeo, but I was used to it by Turbo. I struggled to accept the big cast change in Turbo, but was used to them by In Space. I should also add that I actually loved that a kid was a ranger in Turbo, but I was also 5, so Justin still felt like an adult compared to me. Lost Galaxy was victim to this as well, being the first one to start with a completely new cast, so I enjoyed Lightspeed Rescue more since I was expecting it by then. Time Force would be the last series I watched, and I remember really enjoying it. And if you want to know how I felt about the Season 2 cast change, it didn't really register properly with me because I was too young. I was vaguely aware that the red, black and yellow Rangers changed, but in my 3-year-old brain, Jason and Rocky, Zack and Adam, and Trini and Aisha were the same people. I caught one episode of Wild Force back in the day and didn't care for it, so I never continued. I couldn't tell you whether I'd just outgrown the franchise or if Wild Force was just not going to click with me. But that was pretty much it for me and Power Rangers. I'd have the odd little nostalgic look back as a teenager around 2008 that I kept very hidden from the people around me, watching the odd old episode on YouTube, split across 3 videos each thanks to the time limit back then. I also checked out Forever Red for the first time, stuff like that. I did also check out Once and Forever earlier this year, mainly because Billy was my favourite back then and I was surprised to see him back, having learned the reason behind Dave Villos's departure when all of that came to light. But I don't see myself getting back into any future series. I just don't feel the need to keep an eye on and police the continued quality of every single thing I liked as a kid. But enough about me, let's talk about this game. It's a standard 4-button 2D fighting game. Rather than 2 punches and kicks, the attacks are a normal and fierce unarmed attack, and a normal and fierce weapon attack. We have forward and back dashes with double tap in those directions, and special moves done with the usual quarter circles and the like. Throws can be done up close, with a little grapple struggle if both characters trigger a throw at the same time. There's a power bar that quickly fills up before starting again under the life bars. This will flash when nearly full, and special moves done while the bar is flashing will come out stronger. Doing a move when the bar is full will power it up to the next colour until the bar is filled with lightning, which will then allow you the use of a super special move. It's actually very fun. The moves are responsive, and the game as a whole is a lot faster than you might expect for a licensed fighting game on the Super Nintendo. Super Butoden 1 this is not. You've never seen Megazords this agile. Speaking of, rather than actually playing as the Power Rangers, this game is based around the Megazord fight instead, with half the roster being them and the other half being made up of a couple villains and a couple one-off monsters of the week. But this does bring me to my biggest criticism. This game does have an arcade mode called Story, despite there not really being a story. But it goes the Fatal Fury 1 and Art of Fighting 1 route by having only 2 of the default 8 characters usable for it. Only the Thunder Megazord and Mega Tigerzord can be used for the single player mode. There is a 1-player versus mode, but even using that wasn't thought out very well. By default, the versus mode is 2-player, and you have to press select on one of the controls to swap that player from player controlled to AI controlled. So if you only have one controller, you can't play versus mode single player. Unless swapping controller ports works, but even so, it's still not the best thought out. So let's start out with our story characters. The character select here always amuses me, since you're choosing who the leader of the Megazord will be by using the other 4 Rangers as the cursor. So it looks more like you're deciding whether Rocky or Tommy is going to get ditched by their friends. Also, I didn't know there was a Grey Ranger. So, starting with the Thunder Megazord. Whichever one you choose, you get to see a little cutscene of the Megazord coming together, which is nice. I only keep the massive portraits above the life bars in this first playthrough, as they're pretty big and would have interfered with getting decent screenshots for the thumbnail. The Thunder Megazord has a Shoryuken using the usual input with an unarmed attack, staying on the ground with a normal one and going into the air with a fierce. A fireball with quarter circle forward and unarmed attack, and a 2-hit sword combo with quarter circle back and weapon attack. Its super special is a huge lightning blast from the chest with double quarter circle forward and unarmed attack. The Thunder Megazord is the Ryu of the game, if you couldn't tell by the special inputs. And if the game itself is fun, its Ryu should always be fun by default. My earliest memories of the show were during Season 2, so I've always liked the Thunder Megazord more than the original Dino Megazord. The big samurai shoulders and the green chest orb always stood out to me back then. Overall, it was my second favourite Megazord during the Mighty Morphin days. I remember being disappointed they sold the actual toy in 2 parts. My brother got the Red Dragon Zord for Christmas one year, but since the rest of the Zords were sold as a separate package, we could never make the full thing. Seeing it destroyed at the start of Season 3 was a big moment for little 3 or 4 year old Ultra Kintaro. It was my first time seeing the heroes in anything I'd watched lose so badly and in such a spectacular fashion. The image of it falling apart with the arm coming off and then the headless torso sliding off the legs always stuck with me. It was like seeing a fatality done on my favourite superhero before I even knew what Mortal Kombat and fatalities were, but seeing such a loss also fascinated me. After seeing that, I wanted them to make a toy of the crumbling Thunder Megazord, like press a button or whatever to make it fall apart. Even now, I remember that image more than 99% of the rest of the show. Next we have the Mega Tiger Zord, the version of it combined with the Thunder Zords. This is kind of the Ken of the game, having similar command inputs to similar moves, but this is more than a clone. It has its own big fireball with quarter circle forward and weapon attack. Its Shoryuken input and unarmed attack results in a wind-up punch. Then it has a little combo with back down forward and unarmed attack while up close. Its super special is a massive laser with double quarter circle forward and unarmed punch. I enjoyed playing as the Mega Tiger Zord even more than the Thunder Megazord. It was faster, and that wind-up punch was incredibly useful to me both as a combo ender and just a good strong attack on its own. Plus, throwing a huge fireball with both hands like your Frieza is much cooler than shooting small ones from the chest. I also did much better in the story mode as it, although it took the same amount of time as the Thunder Megazord thanks to the mirror match getting me stuck for most of the run. As for the Zord itself, apart from it being part of the destruction scene I've talked about, I don't have too many memories of it in any of its forms. I did have a remote control toy of its untransformed Tiger State I got for the same Christmas my brother got the Red Dragon Zord, but I don't remember getting to use it much before it seemed to disappear and I have no idea what happened to it. All the other toys I remember either breaking down from play or my mum getting rid of when she decided I was too old for them, but that just disappeared not long after Christmas. Those are the 2 playable characters in story mode, which has you fighting through every other character in the game. I'll keep on with the Zords and talk about the Ninja Megazord next. With that name they decided to make it the Agile Stylish Zord. It has a spin attack with quarter circle back and unarmed attack that can also be done in the air. Quarter circle forward and weapon attack will have it perform a slashing combo. A flying kick with quarter circle forward and unarmed attack that can also be done in the air. Its super special is a more aggressive spin with double quarter circle forward and unarmed attack. The first 2 Megazords were more like straightforward brawlers, but the Ninja Megazord goes more stylish, and it really made me have fun with it even if some of the special moves aren't as cool. It makes up for it with cool looking normals, and I have to say that I think the Ninja Megazord looks much cooler in this game than it did in the show itself. I liked the Ninja Megazord as a kid, but it was probably my least favourite of the main 4 Megazords back then. The only part I felt stood out as especially cool was the headpiece. But it was also the first Megazord toy I ever had, got for I think my 4th birthday, and even the least cool Megazord was still the coolest toy I had back then. Lost the hand covers for the arms pretty quick though, so it had to punch with the ape and wolf's heads. But I don't have many memories of it in the show, or the film even, it's been too long. To finish off the Megazord half of the roster, we have the Shogun Megazord. This thing is huge, it's taller than the others, slower and hits harder. It's so big that its steps shake the ground. It only has 2 specials, a fire sword projectile with quarter circle forward and weapon attack, and spinning its torso with the sword out with quarter circle back and weapon attack. For its special, double quarter circle forward and unarmed attack will have it strike the ground with its fire sword and cause a multi-hitting pillar of fire to erupt from it. Usually, big, slow fighters in 2D fighting games don't do it for me, but the Shogun Megazord is such a beast I can't help but have a blast with it. Every single punch is just so satisfying to land, and combine it with all those weapon attacks that hit multiple times and that effortless one-handed throw, and it really makes me wish I could have taken it through the single player. The Shogun Megazord was also my favourite Megazord as a kid, not just of Mighty Morphin, but of all of them. I just think it looked the coolest. It being made of smaller individual human-shaped robots instead of animals made it look more natural when put together, as opposed to the Ninja Megazord's arm obviously being a squatting wolf. Apparently the Super Sentai that Season 3 was using footage from, Kaku Ranger, had the equivalents of the Zords obtained in the other order, with the Shogun Megazord's counterpart appearing first and the Ninja Megazords nearer to the end. I think swapping them for Power Rangers was a good move. To my 4-year-old Western eyes, the Shogun Megazord just looked tougher and an upgrade over the Ninja Megazord in every way. After getting the Ninja Megazord for that birthday, I got the Shogun Megazord the following Christmas. Overall, it lasted longer than any of the other Megazords I had, even if I didn't take long to lose the face on the headpiece. Generally, I'm not interested in going back to re-obtain any of the Power Rangers stuff I once had as a kid, but if I was going to let myself have just one thing back, it would be the Shogun Megazord. I had a few others since I probably won't get a chance to talk about them. I also had the Deluxe Ninja that could change modes, that was cool. I never got any of the Zeo Megazords, the deluxe ones anyway. I did get a couple of those smaller figures that were the same size as the Ranger figures, the Super Zeo Megazord and the Warrior Wheel. I always wanted the Red Battlezord, but it never happened. I had the Turbo Megazord and loved that one almost as much as the Shogun Megazord. I always liked the look of it, and I remember the feeling of snapping the cars together to build it being very satisfying. Then for in space I had the Astro Megazord and the Mega Voyager. While I kept watching until Time Force, I never had any of the toys past in space. Now I can talk about the stages, and it does bring up another complaint. There are 9 characters in the game, but only 5 stages because all 4 Megazords share the same stage. It seems to take place in the Morphing Grid, or maybe it's an expanded command centre, with Zordon rambling in the background on the screen. The music is a 16-bit rendition of the theme song, and it looks and sounds good, just not good enough to spend half the game here. Especially in Versus mode, as the game always chooses the stage belonging to Player 1's character. But with the Zords out of the way, I can move on to the villains, starting with Lip Syncer. She will sing out explosive notes with quarter circle forward and unarmed attack. She also has a drill kick with quarter circle back and unarmed attack while in the air. Double quarter circle forward and unarmed attack is her super special, a large explosion followed by a shoulder charge. Lip Syncer is pretty fun. She's one of the game's fastest characters and it's easy to just pin an opponent in the corner and beat them up. Lip Syncer is one of the many monsters of the week, which means I can't remember her. I remember very few of them. The Toad that would eat a Ranger, and I think one in Season 3 turned them into golf balls. Did that actually happen or did I dream that one? Either way, I only really remember those two, so I have nothing to say about her other than below the neck she looks like Psylocke. She has her own stage though, the outside of a shopping centre in Angel Grove at sunset. It looks nice, and at this point I'm just glad to see something new. And hear something new as well, since I like her music too. Moving on to the other monster of the week on the roster, we have Silverhorns. It can make a claw come out of the ground and snap on the opponent with quarter circle forward and unarmed attack. Quarter circle forward and weapon attack will have it do the same from the back above itself. Double quarter circle forward and weapon attack will have it open up for its super special and spew electricity everywhere. Silverhorns is alright, though it just feels like an inferior take on the Shogun Megazord's big guy type. The triple claw attack when powering that special is fun, but this one is more about keeping the opponent away I feel, and likes the satisfaction of just getting in there and wrecking them. Like Lip Syncer, I do not remember Silverhorns. I get why they chose these two though. Lip Syncer gets a woman on the roster, since Scorpina was long gone from the show by this point, and I guess they couldn't imagine Rita as a fighter. Silverhorns is huge and visually makes for a good evil counterpart to the Shogun Megazord. His stage is in a desert near some mountains with a few buildings nearby. It's okay, but the least visually interesting of the non-Megazord stages. Now onto a character I actually recognise with Goldar. Goldar has more special moves than the Megazords do. Quarter circle forward and unarmed attack is Annihilator. The Shoryuken input and weapon attack has him do a rising sword attack. Pressing both of the same attack button in the air will have him dive in with an elbow drop. He can make himself float in the air, and quarter circle up to forward and unarmed attack will have him do an airborne eye laser. Double quarter circle forward and unarmed attack will have him call down a massive laser from the sky for his super special. Goldar's alright, but he was probably my least favourite character to play as. I felt his flight didn't add anything, his special's kind of underwhelming compared to what everyone else can do, and he was just kind of bland overall. When it comes to Goldar as a character, I never forgot that voice. Character moments, yes, but not the voice. He was definitely one of the better of the bumbling second-in-commands. The fact that he could still be intimidating to a child and a threat to the heroes helped, as opposed to the likes of, say, Elgar. Missed the end of In Space when that series was first airing as a kid, so I didn't find out he died at the end of it until a few years later. And thinking the words Goldar died was a strange experience. I know he came back recently, but I don't watch anymore, so I can't say anything about it. His stage is an airport, with a more memorable appearance and music track than Silverhorns' stage. After defeating Lip Syncer, Silverhorns and Goldar in story, you get a little cutscene of them being destroyed like in the show. That leaves us with Lord Zed, the 8th character on the roster and apparent final boss. With quarter circle forward and unarmed attack, he can send a wall of lightning across the stage. Half circle forward to back and unarmed attack will have him teleport into the air. A ground teleport is done with the same input and weapon attack. Shoryuken input and unarmed attack has him hold out his hand and surround it with electricity. Forward, then half circle back to forward and unarmed attack will have him throw a projectile forward. Double quarter circle forward and unarmed attack is his super special, sending several lasers out from his hand in different directions. Zed is the one on the villain half I found the most fun to play as. He just has a lot to work with using all those specials, especially when you get them in that lightning attack. Also, one of his throws is an Izuna drop, which is just cool. It's quite strange seeing Zed fighting up close since I don't remember him doing much of the fighting himself, even though he looks like he could be a Mortal Kombat boss. Zed was definitely a scary villain for a kid even after they toned him down and made him more comedic, thanks to the way he looked and his voice. But even I noticed the difference when I was that young. I didn't see Zed's first episode until after the later ones where he'd been toned down, and I remember being surprised at how scared I was of him in that one, more than usual. He was always the villain I remembered most, more than Rita. By the time Zeo was over, I'd already forgotten most of the Machine Empire's names, and I'm not sure I ever remembered them while watching. Divatox I remembered, partially because at 5 I was starting to retain information and remember things more. Partially because I was 5 and Divatox looked like Divatox in a TV show aimed at babies. After that I never really held strong opinions about the rest other than they are villains. Ransik stood out for the Time Force ending too, I suppose. But yeah, as I said before, I missed the end of In Space first time, so for years to me, the end of Zed was his cameo sleeping in the Turbo movie. Catching his reappearances in reruns of In Space was always a treat. Once again, I know he's back in the recent seasons, but it's not going to make me start watching Power Rangers again at 30. If a clip gets recommended and catches my eye, I might check it out, but not much more than that. He's got the best stage in the game too, on the moon with a view of Earth being obscured by Serpentera as the main focus in the background. Zed and his stage just have a look and a presence that go beyond the cheese of Power Rangers. When you defeat Lord Zed, you're not done though. Several lightning strikes destroy Zed and the true final boss appears, Ivan Ooze from the Power Rangers movie. To play as Ivan Ooze in Versus mode, you have to press X, Y and start together on the character select screen. Being the final boss, he's broken. Instead of jumping, he can freely float wherever he wants on screen. He has two different versions of the same projectile, done with either quarter circle forward or quarter circle forward to down and unarmed attack. Doesn't sound like much, but they're enough. Even his normals are either magic barriers or just more projectiles all with their own properties. No super special, he doesn't need one. What makes for a difficult final boss also makes for a fun character to abuse the AI with. Just don't use him against your friends if you want to keep them. He has his own theme music but not his own stage. The stage he gets is whatever character you are highlighting when you use the code to select him. If I had this game back then, I might have loved Ivan Ooze being a surprise final boss, but by the time I was 13 and first played this game, I'd already forgotten about him completely. I saw the name Ivan Ooze and thought, who? So it shouldn't be too surprising that 25 years after I last saw that film, I really don't have anything to say about him. I have a few memories of the film. Zoran looking weird and dying and then undying, the ninja outfits, Rita and Zed shrunk or something. My main memory these days is the cover of the VHS case. Something about the way those movie suits were lined up and the lighting just made them look really striking to me. I remember being in a video shop and just staring at the case because I was enamoured by the way it looked. That's the full roster too, and I think it's a pretty good one. The two monsters are okay choices, and while I'm sure some will bemoan the fact we have 4 Megazords and none of them are the original, I think they did a good job with the 4 we have. That's all I can get out of Ivan Ooze, so it's time to finish story mode. No endings, just the Rangers posing in front of pictures of the Zords with "more phenomenal" written at the top. Then the credits. This was a very fun game for the reasons I already went through. It's fun without the Power Rangers license to the point that someone like me who's been out of the franchise for 20 years can still enjoy it. So far I'd say it's the best Super Nintendo exclusive fighting game of the 3 I've covered so far. There are other fighting games, there's the Mega Drive game, the Game Gear games, and I have been interested in checking out Battle for the Grid but have never found the time. I would like to see another go this route though, and go with a Megazord and Giant roster cast. If you had enough Megazords I recognise, I might check something like that out. But honestly, if you're into early 90s fighting games and haven't played this, I'd say check it out even if you aren't into the franchise, you might enjoy yourself.